As the latest custom mail-in tournament comes to a close, we're going to start up a new drag race tournament. And here we go into the first round, which contains Raw Sun God, J-Bo, Bolo Brown, and MDG. Let's see how they perform. Starting side by side for the most part, but MDG gets the edge. And he gets the first win. And you'll notice we have a new timer, and it'll show how fast each racer went. So we can see just how close each of the racers got. But our fastest time so far is a 3.14 by MDG. Now we go switching into the lanes for race number 2. And let's see if it makes a difference or not. Here we go with the start of the race. Bolo Brown actually has an edge over MDG, but I believe it looks like MDG took the lead back and got the second win. And it looks like they did, finishing just 0.02 faster than Bolo Brown. But this is definitely going to be interesting. Drag races are always the closest races we have, which makes sense. So there might be some nail biters here and there. But MDG is already 2 wins in, 1 more, and they will automatically progress. They did start off a little strong. Bolo Brown is right next to them. I believe MDG still has it, however. They do by just 0.01. Even closer this time around. So Bolo Brown could still make a move here. However, because MDG already has 3 wins, I believe they are the winner, and only he will be moving on. But we'll see in just a moment. And as we begin the final race, Bolo Brown is trying so hard to hold on to some form of a lead. They do start off strong, but MDG is just better at maintaining their speed and overtaking them. But Bolo Brown definitely did not go down without a fight, and neither did the other racers. They just weren't as fortunate as MDG. So now let's see if it is just MDG. It is. There will be 1 racer per group that'll progress. And in this case, it is MDG. And now we have EP, the Impossible E, Shababy, and Brian Oldford. And it looks like Oldford is the one grabbing the win here. And these racers are a little bit more spread out than the last group. And I believe 3.12 is the new fastest time, which will get harder and harder to break as we go, especially in a drag race tournament. Well, now let's look at the tally. And it is Brian Oldford who got the win, followed by Shababy, EP, and the Impossible E. Here we go, race number 2. Brian Oldford and Shababy grab a quick lead, but Oldford managed to get a big enough lead to get another win. So that has 2 victories under their belt, and now they are 1 step away themselves from automatically stamping their spot in the next round. But it looked like Shababy actually was grinding the rail a little bit at the end. Hopefully they and their vehicle are okay. But now let's see what happens in this 3rd race. Can Shababy overtake Brian Oldford or no? Here we go, the start of the race. EP actually seemed to get stuck for just a moment. They did manage to sneak back into 3rd, but unfortunately it will not be enough to move on, because I believe Brian Oldford did get another victory. Yes, they did. So Brian Oldford is joining MDG in the next round, and we will see who among the next few groups will join them. A way to keep it interesting with all the other racers, to be sure. But now we have just a victory lap of sorts for Brian Oldford. Can he stay undefeated? Shababy did have a very, very slim lead over Brian, but Brian got it back and now has 4 wins to their name. Let's check the replay again. Yeah, he definitely did have a bit more of a definitive lead that time. Sometimes it is very close. Sometimes you can't even tell who wins until you see the replay or the timers. But this will make it a lot easier going forward to see who got first place and who fell just short. But now for the third round, we have Abby Normal, Little Fokker, Flamethrower, and Sugar Booty Racing. And here we go. It looks like Little Fokker was going to get the win, but Sugar Booty managed to sneak out that win. And they finished with a 3.09. I believe that is now our new speed record. Just goes to show that it's not always how you start, it's how you finish. And they were the only person so far, I believe, to finish under 3.10. But props to all the people who sent in these vehicles. The designs look amazing. And I am admittedly a bit of a sucker for flames on the side, so props to Flamethrower for that. But now race number 2, Sugar Booty already starts out with the lead. And they have about a half length and it's gradually growing, and they get the second victory. Finishing now with a 3.13. You'll see a lot of races, I am sure, where everyone is going to be within maybe a tenth of a second of each other. At least for the most part. But now Sugar Booty Racing has 2 wins, so another would seal the deal. Race number 3, it actually looked like Sugar Booty started off just a slight bit back farther than the other racers, but that doesn't seem to matter because they will grab the victory that'll stamp their spot in the next round. So good effort by the other 3, but Sugar Booty is the one moving on. But you can see just how fast they were going by the impact they make at the finish and how far backwards they might launch themselves as a result. So now for the 4th and final race, Sugar Booty is already moving on. Can they stay undefeated though? It is awfully close. I think they'll still have it. Yes, they will. And somehow they managed to find themselves flipping over, forwards no less, causing them to end up on their backs. Take a look at this. They get to the end, and it was actually a pretty smooth flip. I'll give them that much. But hopefully, they are not severely injured. But now we have our 3rd spot filled out. Let's see who will fill out the 4th. But in this 4th group, we will have RJ Buster, Miss Maple, Mr. Dark, and Sneaky Bob. And as the race begins, Sneaky Bob already has a whole length's lead as they cross the finish line. And they finish with 3.09. I believe that is tied for the fastest time so far. And you can see the other racers that have already moved on, watching the races with a lot of relaxation on the side. So Sneaky Bob will get the first victory in this group. Let's see how consistent he can be in the next 3. And into race number 2, can Sneaky Bob start off as strong? Just about, if not slightly stronger. And that is another win for Sneaky Bob. They actually finished slightly, ever so slightly slower that time. But as long as you get the win, that's what ultimately counts. And we did have a little bit of grinding on the side just as one of the racers crossed the finish line. Hopefully their car is not damaged. We saw that at some point, I believe, in the custom mail-in tournament, but I could be wrong. But that was Mr. Dark who did that. Hopefully they are okay. It seems like they are, because they are racing in this one here. But Sneaky Bob just gets such a strong start that Mr. Dark cannot do anything about it, as Sneaky Bob will be the one moving on. And they are finishing right around that 3.10 time every time. So they could potentially get faster than 3.09 at some point. And they will have a few more opportunities to do so as they progress to the next stage in this tournament. One race left for them. Sneaky Bob is already on track to be undefeated. Can they do it? They go down the hill, down the straightaway. Here comes Sneaky Bob, and they will remain undefeated. Generally, that is a little bit easier to do in these drag racing tournaments, considering that the track itself is not that long. But with that, Sneaky Bob remains undefeated. I believe all our winners are undefeated, unless I'm remembering something wrong. But our first 4 slots have been filled. Gentlemen, welcome to day number 2 of our 3rd custom drag race tournament. We're going to jump right into the first round, which has Ragin' Ricky, Elber Galerga, Clyde, and Dusty Miles. Some of these are pretty popular racers, particularly with Dusty Miles, who currently has the lead. And will they get the win? Yes, they will. Pretty easily, no less. And they put up an impressive time of 3.03. That is already the fastest time we've seen so far. Up until this point, in the first day, the fastest time pulled off was a 3.09. But Dusty Miles, who is known to grab speed records and sometimes hold on to them until the very end, is just shy of the 3-second mark. But into race number 2, Clyde is trying to catch up to Dusty Miles, who once again easily gets a victory. Did they break 3 seconds? No, they actually finished about a 1/10 of a second, actually a 100th of a second slower. But hey, a victory is a victory, regardless of how fast or slow you go. So Dusty Miles is already 2 wins in. Just shows how quick they are. And now they're just 1 win away from progressing automatically, and it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do. They have great control going down the straightaway, and they get their 3rd win. And they somehow, consecutively, are going 100th of a second slower each time. Let's see if in the 4th race, now that they have some breathing room, let's see if they can go even faster now. Because now they don't have that pressure when going up against these other 3. Here we go, the start of the race. Clyde was toe-to-toe with Dusty Miles for a second, but quickly lost it. And Dusty Miles wins again, finishing with a 3.05. And it looks like somebody lost their ID on the track right underneath the gate. Let's see if that was Clyde or somebody else. Now it looks like going over the finish line, Clyde might have lost their ID tag, or whatever that is. But it looks like their vehicle itself was not damaged. And now Dusty Miles is also undefeated. So far, everyone who's moved on has had that same honor. And on Group 2, we have Jesse the Taurus, Road Rage Racing, The Hammer, and Roxanne Marie. And we have another clear-cut victory here. And they will finish with a 3.12. So far, it looks like Dusty Miles is the one to keep your eye on, because they are one of only 3 racers who have finished under 3.10. With the others being Sugar Booty Racing, I believe, alongside Sneaky Bob. But I believe that was the Hammer who got the first win so far. Can they do it again? Just like Dustin Miles, it was a little bit clear cut. And that seems to be the case here as they grab win number 2. Finishing at 3.12 once again. A lot of times in races like this, consistency is key. And they finished at least a 1/10 of a second faster than everybody else, which in a drag race like this is really good. So now the Hammer just needs one more win. And so far, everyone in this tournament who has won a race has not lost one yet either. And the Hammer keeps that going with a 3rd win, so they will be the next one to join the roster in the next round, finishing at least around the same time, but not quite exactly the same time. Meanwhile, these other 3 racers are staying actually pretty close to each other, but considering only one person can move on, that's not necessarily a good thing. So the Hammer already progresses, trying to keep the streak alive of having everyone who wins stay undefeated. And with a great start to that race, it looks like they're going to pull that off, and they will. So let's see what kind of time they had. That is a 3.13. So that is just about as consistent as you can get. I don't think we've had any racers yet finish at the same time all 4 times they've raced, but there will be plenty of opportunities for that to happen. So that is Group 2 done. The Hammer is the one progressing. And now for the 3rd round. And in said round, we have Lone Wolf 2, Ricochet, Rico the Robot, and Flip. I believe that is Flip Gambino, but I could be wrong. But Flip actually does get the first win. And these racers were evenly spread out. What kind of time did they have? A 3.03. An incredibly fast time. I believe that is actually tied with the speed record. Let's see if Flip can be the one to break 3 seconds or not. So now Flip is the one looking to stay undefeated, keeping that streak going. With this being the 3rd group in this video, that will mean that they would be the 7th in a row to pull off this impressive feat. And so far they are in great position to do so, finishing with 3.05 this time. It seems like in a lot of drag races, one particular racer has an edge over the other 3 who will stay relatively close together as they approach the finish line. And that is definitely the case here. Rico the Robot has been finishing in 2nd each time so far, so if anyone is going to somehow overtake Flip, it will most likely be them. But Flip is making it a challenge on the other 3 as they pull away once more, grabbing a 3rd win. So they will be joining the roster in the next round, finishing with 3.05 again. And they still have one more race to do if they want to keep that undefeated racer streak going. Because in the drag races, it's actually more impressive when we see someone who isn't undefeated move on. But Flip is definitely up there amongst the faster racers, so it's looking pretty good for them right now. Meanwhile, Lone Wolf, Ricochet, and Rico are definitely in trouble, as Flip does get that win. Was it fast enough to break the record? No, it was actually slightly slower. But that is okay. They will have more opportunities in later parts of the tournament to break 3 seconds. Now that is the 3rd spot filled for today, and I believe there is one left, at least in this video, so let's see who will take it. And in group number 4, we will be joined by Diane, Soren, Nick Devers, and Variant Skunkworks. And here we go. Actually, one racer already quickly fell behind, while Skunk and Nick fought for first place. I want to say Nick was able to grab it. But we actually have a non-finish in the drag races. That is a rarity. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but as the race began, it seemed like they got stuck for a moment. And they quickly fell behind. Let's check the replay again. You can see how far behind they already were. And then with the gateway there, it's hard to see them. The timer was definitely taking its time, calculating how fast everyone went. But it looks like... Oh, we have some putty melted. Let's see what that does. Is that going to affect everything or not? I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. But the win was given to Nick. Can they do it again? They definitely have some rough contention alongside Skunk, so they cannot get too comfortable. But it looks like they will manage to get another win. But that is scary. Especially since we have another non-finish with the same racer as before. Were they the ones with the trouble with the putty? I'm not entirely sure, actually. But that could explain why they suddenly are going so slow, even when going downhill, and not finishing. I can't imagine how it feels to look forward to participating in a tournament only to have something like this happen. But their name will certainly be remembered one way or another, while Nick Devers grabs another victory. So they will be the next person to progress, while Soren, hopefully I'm saying that right, is getting another DNF. It's got to be something with the vehicle, because no matter what lane they're in, they're having the same issue. But for the leaders, Nick Devers is finishing in first every time, but Skunk has been giving them a run for their money, to be sure. But Nick Devers is one win away. Can they do it? Or will Skunk pull off an upset? It looks like they will not. Nick Devers remains undefeated. That is 8 racers in a row that have not lost a single race. Let's check up on Soren, because it looks like we will have somebody in the drag race tournament that never finished even once. My condolences to you. I cannot imagine how rough this must be. There you have it. 8 racers so far moving on, and all 8 keep that undefeated streak going. That's how it is so far. Hopefully, they at least gave Soren a point. I believe that is well earned, considering no one wants to go out with no points. Thank you, and welcome to day number 3 of the Custom Mail-In Tournament Drag Race Edition. Here's the first round, which has T.O. Sawyer, Demon Preacher, Matt McNear, and AutoZone. AutoZone was a standout in the previous tournament, and it looks already like they're going to be a standout in this tournament as they take an early lead and the first victory. Let's see what kind of time they finished with. There was a 3.17. For those tuning in for the first time, our fastest time so far is actually held by 2 people, Dusty Miles and Flip, respectively, who both finished at one point with a 3.03. That is very difficult to do, and if somebody can break 3 seconds, I will be impressed. But for now, AutoZone takes the first win in this group. Will he be able to continue the streak of every racer so far who has won a race not losing one? It looks like he will, because both times, as he grabs the second win, he has won by a decent amount. A lot of these other races, it is a close call, but AutoZone makes it clear that he is the clear winner. Every single person in this tournament so far who has won a race has not lost one. Every single person up to this point that has won is an undefeated racer. And AutoZone is easily looking to join that category, that ever-expanding list. And here he goes into the third race. He gets an early start, and once he gets it, he does not lose. Sometimes in a drag race especially, if you start off strong, no one will be able to catch you. A beautiful performance for sure by AutoZone, and now, because he has 3 consecutive wins, he is already going to advance. Now he just wants to join that ever-expanding list of undefeated racers. And considering how much faster he is compared to the other 3, it looks like that is going to be the case. But we've seen bigger surprises before. As the race begins, he already is a car's length ahead by the time they get to the bottom of the slope. And he gets that 4th win, joining the undefeated racer group. And he's been finishing within the 3.10s most of the time, which is still pretty solid. But in a drag race like this, where people have been finishing at least a 1/10 of a second faster than that, I wouldn't let your guard down just yet. But AutoZone will be advancing. Here's the next group. And we have Crazy Camel, Flurry Heart, Leo, and Rebel Racer. Crazy Camel is definitely a standout because we usually see dogs or something in these races, but definitely not camels. Unfortunately, they do finish in 4th. And our winner almost actually tied for the fastest time. They finished with a 3.04. Remember, the fastest the fastest time so far is a 3.03. They were just barely off, but they will get that first win, Rebel Racer did. So now it is them who's looking to keep the streak alive. Here we go into race number 2. They are followed at least closely behind 2 of those other racers, but Rebel is a clear-cut winner, just like AutoZone was. And they are finishing a little bit quicker than AutoZone was. Not by much, but especially in drag races, those small margins can make a big difference. And he felt so good about crossing the finish line first that he almost went back and crossed it again. But now Rebel Racer is just 1 race away from advancing. Flurry Heart and Leo are trying to disrupt that. Crazy Camel's having a little bit of difficulty doing so. Flurry Heart finishes in 3rd. Rebel Racer gets that win. And he is finishing under 3.1 pretty much the entire time. Not quite able to get the fastest time though, but he was awfully close. It looks that's everyone finishing within about a half a second of each other. But considering how short these tracks are, that's a huge problem for the ones that fall behind. Leo was a little bit closer to Rebel this time. Will they be able to pass him now? Oh, Rebel actually got a bit of a lead over him. And because of that, he does get that 4th victory. And he is the next undefeated racer, finishing 3.07. Leo unfortunately had a bit of a slow start on that one, so he wasn't able to contend much with Rebel Racer. If he started well, he might have been able to make something happen. But for now, it is Rebel Racer who will be progressing to the next round. And in the 3rd round for today's video, we have Tito, Tabo, Iceman, and fan favorite Numbskull. As the race begins, Numbskull does have a bit of a lead. Here come the other racers though. But Numbskull has a decent gap over the others. Let's see how much of one. Finishing 3.06, another close call for a record of speed. Yeah, a lot of people have been rooting for Numbskull in the other tournament going on. So maybe right now he can use this opportunity to boost his confidence. But he does have to deal with Tito, Tabo, and Iceman. And so far he's doing really well. Once he gets to the bottom of that hill, he's able to get a small burst of speed to lunge himself forward and get a bigger lead than when they first start going down the hill. And he finishes in first again, this time with a 3.08. Yeah, many of these drag races we've had up to this point have had very close calls. A lot of photo finishes, people finishing side by side or almost at the exact same time. But in today's video, it seems like the ones who win make it a little more obvious who is the winner. And Numbskull is no different. They just need one more victory, and it looks like they're going to get it as they pull away after going down that slope, and they get it. Meanwhile, Tito seems a bit exhausted as he winds up on his back by the time he crosses the finish line and gets to the end. Yeah, these are definitely a fast group of racers, but among them, Numbskull is the fastest. And that's all that you need in a race like this. Because even if you are fast, if someone is faster than you, it doesn't count for much. But here they come one more time. Numbskull had Tito on his back for just a moment, but that moment quickly disappeared as Numbskull is our next undefeated racer, finishing again at 3.08. Wonderful performance by all, to be sure, but only one moves on from each group instead of the traditional two. And now for our fourth and I believe final round for today, which has Alex Cook, Rank Hank, Laro, and James Ironbeard. I remember James Ironbeard being a strong racer, and it looks like he's going to be here, but it seems as though he wasn't able to hold on to the lead this time around. But these races just got a little bit closer. In fact, look at that, just off by about 1/100th of a second. James Ironbeard is not going to make it easy. Look at that, 3:11 versus 3:12. This could go either way between James Ironbeard and Laro, which means we may have, if James Ironbeard finishes in front of Laro even once, he will be the first one to stop someone from being undefeated. And it looks like he might pull that off. He does have a nose over Laro, but Laro somehow was able to maintain his speed a little bit better. And I believe he got the win, and he did, by a slightly bigger margin this time. I'm sure James Ironbeard is a little bit frustrated right now, but he can't be too frustrated, otherwise he might make a crucial mistake. But now Laro is the one with one victory left before automatically advancing. Let's see what happens here. Laro currently has a lead. James Ironbeard is trying to catch him. Will he be able to? No! Laro is automatically advancing, and now he's only one race away from being yet another undefeated racer. When it happens so often, you're going to hear me say that quite a bit. But these are a lot closer. James Ironbeard, though, still has one more opportunity to stop Laro from being undefeated. But based on these last two races, it could be tricky. It could all depend on how they start. And Laro starts with a lead over James. James is actually a little bit closer this time, but I don't think he got it. I think Laro will still be a racer without a loss. So 4 more groups, 4 more undefeated racers, and some very close calls for the fastest time so far, but it is still held by Dusty Miles and Flip. But Lero is the winner among this group. And now you have your next 4 in the roster advancing to the next part of the tournament. Thank you all so much for watching. Hello everyone and welcome to day number 4 of the Custom Mail-In Drag Race Tournament. And in today's first round, we have Rob, Lewis, Puff, and Arlo. These are among some of the more popular racers, and let's see how they do against each other. It seems to be a contention between Puff and Arlo, but Arlo takes the lead and they finish in first. In fact, from left to right, I think is how they finished in terms of order. And Arlo did pull off a somewhat faster time of 3.08. So far, our fastest time for those who are tuning in for the first time, it's still 3.03, which is held by 2 separate racers, Dusty Miles and Flip, respectively. But for our first group of today, it is Arlo who wins the race, so they are the next racer hoping to join the ever-growing list of undefeated ones. And it looks like he's going to win again as he gets a good start over Puff and gets a second victory. Yes, so far everyone who's participated in this tournament that has won a race has not lost one yet, which is a bit more common in drag races as opposed to some of the other tournaments we have. However, some of these races have been very close, like just in the previous drag race video, we had a very close call sometimes between James Ironbeard and Lero. So we'll see if anyone has that kind of contention today. For now though, it is Arlo who has 2 consecutive wins, and they're looking for a third here. Can they get it? It looks like they will. And they will, yes, 3 consecutive wins. Arlo is automatically progressing and joining the roster in the next part of the tournament. It looks like when they first start, Arlo and Puff start out relatively side by side. However, a lot of these faster racers, once they get to the bottom of the slope, they take off running and leave everyone else in the dust. And that seems to be what Arlo is doing here with Puff, Lewis, and Rob. And now they're just looking for that final win, at least for now. But look at that, it actually was Puff who started off with a slight lead, but Arlo quickly took it back and got that 4th win. And so far, I don't think they've gotten the fastest time. They got close once or twice, but so far, Dusty Miles and Flip hold on to the speed record. Fantastic racing by all 4, each one finishing under 3.5, but it is only Arlo who will be advancing. So with that said, we will now move on to our second group. Let's see who is in it. It is NZ Racing, Johnny B, Kowalski, and Craigster Sr. The last time we saw Kowalski, he had a shocking early exit. And now he is looking to redeem himself, and so far he is with the first win in this group, finishing with a 3.08. That is about as fast as the previous group was going. So far, all he wants is to finish better than he did in the last tournament. So Kowalski gets a first win. However, it was a little bit closer than it was in the previous group. Let's see how he does now. He does start off slightly slower, but he is able to grab the lead. But Craigster Sr. there almost was able to catch him, actually. Only about 0.03 of a second behind him. So if Kowalski ever brushes up against the wall too much or somehow finds another way to slow down, Craigster Sr. might be able to find a way to stop him, if not one of the other racers. But that being said, Kowalski is 2 races in with 2 wins. Another one will seal the deal. The race begins. He starts out going down the hill. He has the lead already, but here comes Craigster Sr. Only about a half length behind, but Kowalski will be progressing. That is a sigh of relief for him, I am sure. But check that out. Some of these races have gotten very close. Craigster Sr. was not making it easy. But in the drag race tournament, only one person from each group will advance. And in this case, that is Kowalski. Now for that final race, can Kowalski join the ever-expanding list of people staying undefeated? It looks like he's going to. Craigster Sr. actually had a slow start that time somehow. If he had a strong start like he normally did, he might have been able to beat Kowalski in that last one. But unfortunately, that last one did him in. And Kowalski is our next undefeated racer. So now we are 2 groups in. Let's see who the third one will be. And the third round consists of Jay McNeil, Philippe Sabinas, Wild Willie G, and Sam Hall. And as the race begins, we actually have 3 that are side by side, and it looks like, I think that's Sam Hall in the lead. Well, whoever that was finished with a 3.13. That is actually among the slower times we've seen recently, but only about 0.05 of a second slower. So they are still moving pretty quickly. That being said, some racers have finished about 1/10 of a second faster, which can be a huge, huge deal. Yeah, that was Sam Hall who got that first win, but that was not an easy win to pull off, as the likes of Wild Willie G stayed on his tail. In fact, it looks like Wild Willie G almost had him, but I believe Sam Hall was able to hold on to that lead. No, look at this. It says they finished at the same time, but based on the blinking time, it looks like they're going to give it to Wild Willie G. Let's see if the judges will agree to that one. That is about as close as you can get. It's saying Wild Willie G is the winner. Let's see if the judges play it back. They are both actually going to get the win. I guess the timer just had to technically give it to someone, but they finished at the same time. And now Wild Willie G was in the lead for a moment, but Sam Hall was able to come back and get it. Now, because they finished at the same time in the previous race, Sam Hall is still considered undefeated, and he will progress, most likely due to the fact that he's gotten 3 wins, whereas Wild Willie G only technically has 1. In fact, Wild Willie G finished at the same time as somebody else that time around, which I believe was Philippe. But now 1 race left. If anyone's gonna stop Sam Hall, it's gonna be one of these guys. In fact, Sam Hall gets a really slow start in that lane. Will he be able to overtake Wild Willie G at the last second? He might have. Let's see what the timers say. He managed to pull it off somehow. I wonder if something is up with that lane, because I swear I've seen some people in that lane in particular pop up for just a second and get a slow start. But somehow Sam Hall was able to find it in him to use all his energy to overtake the other racers at the last possible moment, and he will stay undefeated. And now for our 4th round, and we will have Giorgio, Papa, Hot Wheels Boys, and Chase Family. Some of these races are definitely pretty memorable. It looks like Chase Family is going to get that win, although he had some people coming up close to him. 1 racer derailed slightly, finishing with a 3.11. Yeah, you want to try as best you can to finish under the 3.10 mark if you want to comfortably progress to the next round, knowing that there aren't too many people faster than you. But for now, as long as you finish and progress, you'll have more opportunities to improve later on. Here comes Chase Family again. Hot Wheels Boys is actually right next to them, but Chase Family is able to pull away and get a second win. And they finish this time with a 3.10. That is a slight improvement. Let's see if they can finish even quicker than that in the third race. Yeah, these camera angles definitely can mess with your mind for a little bit, because sometimes it looks like they're all side by side. Although that wasn't too far off with this particular group, because they all finished within 1/10 of a second of each other. But again, all that matters is that you end up with the most points. And so far, Chase Family has that point advantage. They started off slightly slower, but they still managed to pull away and get another win. And they finished at about the same time this race around, and everyone else finished around the exact same time. Let's see how close that was with the other three. Yeah, pretty side by side all the way through. But the winner is still Chase Family Racing. So they will advance. Now it's just trying to stay undefeated. And here they go down the hill. Giorgio Papa and Hot Wheels Boys trying to make something happen. Hot Wheels Boys does have the lead for a moment, or rather in second, but then he fell to third. And I believe Chase Family is still the overall winner. And they are. So definitely some of the closest racing we've seen so far today. And I'm sure we'll see more of that in the future. For now though, Chase Family wraps up today's winners, and today's list of undefeated racers keeps growing. But there's the next 4 in the roster. Thank you all so much for watching. We will see you next time. Gentlemen, welcome to day number 5, the last group before the semifinals. And the first group before then consists of Iron Poet, Rob Maverick, Tim McCall, and Hawk Twa. Now, Hawk Twa is Blue Line Racing, who's been doing extremely well in recent tournaments, and it seems they are doing no different here, finishing in first with a 3.04, just off the time of the speed record, which is a 3.03, set and held in day 2 with Dusty Miles and Flip. But Hawk Twa gets that first win, and it was a pretty simple one for them. But they did get close to flying off the track, I believe, so they still want to be careful. And here they go into the second race, already about a car's length ahead, if not more, and they cross the finish line again with very little contention from the others. Finishing actually slightly slower this time. If anyone's going to break that record right now, it would be Hawk Twa. Blue Line Racing is known for their incredible speeds and the vehicles they create. And so far, no exception is made here. In fact, they got so thrilled, they almost crossed the finish line going backwards. Now for the third race, Hawk Twa just needs one more. Starting in one of the middle lanes, they go down the hill, they go into the straightaway, the flat part, and they get that third win, so Hawk Twa is advancing. Finishing. The other 3 racers still have a shot to stop Hawk Twa from winning every race. So far, everyone who's won a race in this tournament hasn't lost one yet, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens when they all start going up against each other. But there's the win that Hawk Twa needed to advance. Now they're just trying to keep anyone else from passing them in the last one. Once again in one of the middle lanes, and they take off, I would say running, but they're on wheels, so that's hard to say, but they get that 4th win. They will also stay undefeated, and they're pretty consistent throughout when it comes to how fast they get to the finish line. So I believe there's only one more group before the semifinals, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we will also be starting in this video. So as that next group finishes up, do not go away, because we will jump right into the semifinals, or at least the start of it. Here we go into group number 2. Uncle Elvis, Old Sarge, Nomo, and Issa Khan. I'm pretty sure I said that correctly this time. I apologize for saying Issa Khan before. But Issa Khan does get that first win without much trouble, finishing 3.1. Yeah, as I've been starting to say recently, finishing at 3.10 or under can give you a breath of fresh air, as that's where some of the fastest races have been sitting. But they do have the likes of Hawk Twa, Dusty Miles, and Flip to go up against as well, along with some of the other racers that have gotten awfully close to being the fastest. Into race number 2, Issa Khan was actually falling behind for just a moment, but as they got to the bottom of the slope, they took off and they managed to overtake everybody else and get win number 2. And because of that slower start, they did have a slower time, but look how close these racers are finishing with each other. Everyone seems to have finished within about 0.2 of a second when it comes to first to last. But Issa Khan is already 2 races and 2 wins in. I believe Issa Khan is the last racer to have an opportunity to be undefeated. So if Issa Khan, I'm sorry if I said Issa again, but if Issa Khan pulls this off, I believe that means every racer going into the semifinals will have not lost at all. So I'm sure it will be fierce competition as we begin that phase of the tournament. There goes Issa Khan with a 3.12. They've been finishing around 3.10 each time. If they can go slightly quicker, I'm sure that'll make them a little bit more comfortable going into the next phase of the tournament, which they will be doing since they have 3 consecutive wins. Now, can anyone like Uncle Elvis stop them? Sometimes Uncle Elvis starts out in front of Issa, but Issa managed to get 4 wins regardless. So I believe that means every racer progressing has not lost a race yet, which means that there's about to be a lot of people dethroned. And as we get into the semifinals, everybody, what I believe the way it'll work is it'll be 3 racers in each group and 3 races between them. But now we have our entire roster, but we will waste no time and jump immediately into the semifinals. This will be part 1, part 2 will come later. And the first group going in the semifinals consists of Brian Oldford, Killer Kowalski, and MDG. Who will stay undefeated and which 2 will be dethroned? Killer Kowalski is out by a nose so far, and it looks like his lead is expanding and he gets the win. So MDG and Brian Oldford are no longer undefeated, while Killer Kowalski is. I believe there's just 2 races left instead of the usual 3, since there's only 3 racers. But congrats to Killer Kowalski for pulling up the fastest time in this particular group. Now they just got to remain consistent if they want to keep moving forward. There they go again. Killer Kowalski is side by side with MDG, but he pulls away and he manages to get win number 2. And that puts him in a much, much better position. Meanwhile, these other 2 are struggling to make something happen here. Although considering there's only 3 races this time, it's going to be a lot harder. That being said, they all finished within about 0.07 of a second of each other. So it's still very, very close. So here we go, the final race with this group. Kowalski trying to stay undefeated. Can he do it? It looks like he will. Yes, he will. 3 wins for Kowalski. He stays undefeated as he moves on even further in this tournament. And I believe we'll have one more group in the semifinals go today. So we'll see who joins Kowalski in the finals. Valiant effort by all racers all around. And now for the second group, I believe this will be the final one for today. And it has Sneaky Bob, Nick Devers, and Arlo. Who will stay undefeated? It looks like it might be Arlo, but here comes Sneaky Bob trying to overtake him, but he could not do it. Arlo remains undefeated as he gets the first win of these 3, finishing at a very familiar time of 3.10. But they all finish within 4/100ths of a second of each other. So I believe anything could still potentially happen here. Sometimes all you need is a slow start and that can disrupt everything. But a fantastic finish by Arlo. Can they do it again? He will start in lane 1 this time. Will that make a difference? It doesn't seem like too much. They all are spaced out relatively evenly. And Arlo actually starts going off the rails quite literally there. But he finishes at 3.10 once more. Yeah, I figured as we started getting into the semifinals, and especially when we get to the finals, some of these races will be a lot closer. Because we'll truly see who stands out above the rest. But Arlo is in a very good position right now. Hoping to continue to stay undefeated, just like Kowalski. And there they go. Arlo is actually slightly behind. I think he might have been able to get his nose out in front of Sneaky Bob at just the right moment. See what the times were. It's saying 3.11 for both Arlo and Sneaky Bob. Let's see what this will mean. What will the judges decide to do? Will they give them both the win? If so, Arlo will move on and technically stay undefeated. And they decide. Yes, they both get the win, but Arlo has more points, so he will be the one advancing alongside Kowalski. Thank you all so much. 2 of the semifinals of our latest custom drag race tournament. If you want to see part 1, check out the last video. But in this group we have Dusty Miles, Sugar Booty Racing, and Isa Khan. So far, Dusty Miles not only is among the undefeated racers, and with this win will continue to be, but Dusty Miles, alongside Flip, hold the record for the fastest time in this tournament so far with a 3.03. And because he got that win, that means Isa Khan and Sugar Booty Racing will both be dethroned. That doesn't mean they're out of the tournament yet, but now with the way this semifinal setup is organized, they only have 2 more opportunities to stop Dusty Miles as opposed to 3. And in heat number 2, Dusty Miles is in the middle. Can they hold on to that lead? It looks like they will. And they're pulling away, grabbing win number 2. So they will continue to stay undefeated, at least for now. While Isa Khan and Sugar both finish at the same time. But Dusty Miles currently is in a great position to keep going in this tournament and possibly win overall, along with holding on to the title of fastest time, even if that means sharing it with someone else. So far, several racers have gotten very close to breaking 3 seconds, but that is very hard to do. But if anyone's going to do it, it might very well be Dusty Miles, and so far, they're grabbing that 3rd win, so they will stay undefeated and progress to the finals. Yeah, they managed to pull off 3.03 a while back, and so far they have not been able to replicate it. Finishing at about the same speed as some of the other fastest racers we've seen in this tournament yet. While Sugar Booty Racing and Isa Khan continue to finish at least around the same time. But their journey in this tournament ends here as Dusty Miles progresses. Now for the next group, we will have the Hammer, Numbskull, and Lero. Some of the fan favorites are here right now. Numbskull almost fell behind for just a moment, but managed to find a burst of speed that they needed to get that win. Numbskull in these tournaments, as of now, has been doing very well, not always able to put it away and become the overall winner, but they always put up a great fight, and there's certainly no exception in this case. 3.08, that's about how fast some of these other racers have been recently. So they do not want to let their guard down even for a moment. Lero definitely had to fight their way here because they got awfully close with some of the competitors that they had. And it's no different here. And once again, Lero almost had an opportunity to stay in first and get that win, but they could not hold on to it as Numbskull passed them once again. Finishing slightly quicker this time, actually. Usually with these racers, they seem to finish a little bit slower after their first race. But now they have 2 wins for Numbskull. Another one will keep that undefeated streak alive. Could we possibly see an undefeated racer win this tournament? Because so far we already have 2, I believe 3 actually, going into the finals. Numbskull could very well be the 4th if he can finish in first here. And it looks like they're going to as they pull away from the other 2, grabbing that very victory that they needed. And they actually got quicker and quicker with each race, it looks like. So that is 2 groups down. I believe there are 2 left in the semifinals and today's video to decide who will be in the finals. But Numbskull will be the one progressing out of these 3. But that doesn't mean the other 2 didn't put up a fight, so props to them. And now for the 5th group, consisting of Chase Family, AutoZone, and Flip Gambino. I believe earlier in this tournament they were just referred to as Flip. But they are going to get that win, leaving Chase Family and AutoZone behind them. Not by a lot, but as long as you're in the front, it doesn't matter by how much. You can see just how fast some of these racers are. Many of the ones winning right now are finishing under the 3.1 mark, excuse me. So now with that victory, they are the ones staying undefeated. And they will continue to hold on to that speed record for now. But he or Dusty Miles could possibly break it, if not someone else. And here they go again. Flip Gambino is looking for win number 2, and it looks like he's going to get it. Yes, he will. These are looking very familiar so far. 3.05, that is even closer to the fastest time. Only off by 0.02 of a second. I definitely figured with these semifinals, the races will start to get a lot closer and a lot closer. So I can only imagine what the finals are going to look like with each of the races that are going there so far. And unless something goes terribly wrong, it looks like Flip Gambino will join them. And he's quickly pulling away, feeling pretty good about themselves. And they win once more, solidifying their spot even further in the finals. And now with that, I believe there's only one group left. We'll see how that group does in a second, but check this replay out one more time. And let's give a round of applause to those who made it this far, but fell just short of the final round. I believe there will be one more racer moving on, and two more that'll trip at the finish line, if you will. And this group consists of Sam Hall, Hawk Twa, and Rebel Racer. These three have fought tooth and nail to get here. Hawk Twa is looking to try and stay undefeated, but Rebel Racer might have actually been able to overtake them. Let's see what the timer says. 3.07 for both of them. The blinker is saying Rebel Racer, but given how these finishes have been going so far, whenever they finish at the same time, they give 5 points to both racers. Yeah, Hawk Twa saw Rebel Racer coming, so he put his pedal to the metal, and they both will get a win. So this is still very much anyone's game, to be sure. Because they both finished in first, Sam Hall managed to get 3 points. And it's looking awfully close again. I believe Hawk Twa had just barely an edge over Rebel. And they did, but that was awfully close. Just 1/100th of a second. These are absolute nail biters. I am waiting to see if somebody will beat Hawk Twa here. So Rebel Racer is now dethroned as of that race. And I'm sure he would love to get revenge right now. Will he be able to pull it off? Sam Hall gets a slow start as the other two take off. Rebel Racer actually almost blends into the track a little bit, but he does end up finishing in second. So Hawk Twa will be the one moving on, with a fantastic time of 3.05. And I believe that wraps up the semifinals. So a roster for the finals now is complete. And every single one who is in the finals has not lost a race yet. So this ought to be an interesting set of events, I should say. But congratulations to Hawk Twa for progressing. Here are your finalists. Let's see who will win it all in the next 6 undefeated racers left, and it all comes down to this. These are your finalists. Each one of them has won every single race so far, but that is about to change. We will see right here today who is the overall winner. And the first group will have Flip Gambino, Arlo, and Numbskull. Flip Gambino is one of the 2 racers, the other being Dusty Miles, who has the fastest time so far, and they will finish in first, I believe, once more, finishing at 3.07. But Numbskull was very close with 3.08, and Arlo was no slouch either. This can still be anyone's race. Now, I believe how this will work is the top 2 will move on from each of these 2 groups, and then those final 4 will all race together. And here we go. It looks like Flip is going to hold on to the lead, and they will get the second win. Numbskull and Arlo are ever so close. All of them finishing under 3.1. But with 2 wins under their belt, it's going to be hard to beat Flip Gambino now. He is just 1 race away from staying undefeated even still. Here they go. Flip Gambino is now in lane 3, which has shaken up some racers a couple times. Doesn't seem to be happening here, although he is slightly behind, but he actually manages to pull away once more, so he will stay undefeated as he goes into the last round of the entire tournament. And I believe Numbskull will still join him. We'll have to see, just to be sure. But it was a fantastic race done by all. Yep, it'll be Flip and Numbskull progressing, so Numbskull still has a shot to get the overall victory. But in the second group, we have Killer Kowalski, Dusty Miles, and Hawk-Twa. These three racers are known for their incredible speed. So let's see what happens here. And it looks like Dusty Miles will actually grab the win. That is some of the closest racing you can get. Look at that. Hawk-Twa and Killer Kowalski both finish only 1/100th of a second behind Dusty Miles. And I believe both of them will get 3 points each, while Dusty Miles will get 5, and that is exactly the case. But with only 2 races left, will things turn around for any of them? Or will this be Dusty Miles' tournament to lose? And look, this Hawk-Twa saw what happened in that first rack at them. And they popped off that rail yet again, but I believe Dusty Miles, yes he did, he got the win yet again. And once more, Hawk-Twa and Killer Kowalski finish at the same time. We're gonna have to see what happens if they tie. But for whatever reason, anyone who's on that outside lane, it seems to be common that their right side pops loose a little bit and goes over the side. But this is about as close as you can get, and I know I say that a lot, but this is especially the case. Because any one of them could still be knocked out with the way these points have been spread. But Dusty Miles still grabs that win, and Hawk-Twa clearly finished in front of Killer this time, so I believe Hawk-Twa will move on to the last round, and Killer Kowalski will fall just short. That is about how close you are able to be without progressing. So that was fantastic racing by Killer Kowalski. But Hawk-Twa and Dusty Miles will be moving on, and now you have your absolute finalists. Dusty Miles, Numbskull, Flip Gambino, and Hawk-Twa. One of these 4 will be your overall winner. And so far in this first race, it is between Dusty and Hawk-Twa. Did they finish at the same time? No, they're saying Hawk-Twa finished 1/100th of a second in front of Dusty Miles. In fact, look at this, 3.04, 3.05, 3.06, 3.07. All within 1/100th of the person in front and behind them. But that first win does go to Hawk-Twa, so they are the only person that can stay undefeated and still win. But here we go, race number 2 out of 4, I believe. And it is awfully close. I believe that is Flip who got the win this time. And it is. Once again, all finishing very, very close to each other. This is about as good a group as you can get when in terms of being on the edge of your seat to see who wins, because it is going back and forth between some of these guys right now. Right now, the person with the lead is still Hawk-Twa after that first win with a total of 8. But he's got at least 2 racers hot on his tail. And who's going to win this one? It looks like it'll be Dusty Miles. And it will be. Now, how the rest of the points are spread could differ, and right now, Hawk-Twa and Flip will both get 3 points. Numbskull seems to be the one struggling in this group, but I say that very lightly, because just because they're struggling doesn't mean they're not doing well. They're doing fantastic. They just happen to be going up against these other 3 racers but the points are very close. This is still pretty much anyone's game. And here we go into the final race. I believe you had a different winner every time. And it looks like Flip and Dusty Miles might have finished simultaneously. But they're actually saying that Dusty Miles won that race, but not by much. I couldn't quite tell who was going to win with the points, but that's definitely going to help Dusty. Will Hawktois be dethroned as the reigning champion? Let's see what the judges say for the scores. And Dusty Miles pulls it off. He is your overall winner of this drag race tournament.